Blog Talk Radio.
Gentlemen, welcome to the realm of the truly bizarre.
A guy in this town has got one 12 inches long. If you like one that size, something must be wrong. That's too much weenie for a bun to take, and you're bound to end up with the belly. Ha!
Hello, Queen. I'm the cute one.
Yeah. What's getting naked?
My, it's a big one.
What's going on in there?
Let's just say I take up a lot of cyberspace.
Yeah, this is Wolf Bytes. This is your host, Lupine Furman, with our co-hosts, David Knight and Daniel Ivey. You can give us a call in at 347-945-7065 or log into the show's webpage and join us in the chat room where we've got one person in there right now. Hello, Donovan. Hope you're hearing us good. And let's see. Tonight's show, where'd my notes go? There they are. Tonight's show, of course, is Boys and Girls. What's appropriate when? We're going to be talking about age appropriateness for various activities. But before we get started, I want to give some shout-outs and thank yous to our newest show followers, Jeremy Clemente, Willows Stream of Madness. I think I've floated down that stream a few times. And author extraordinaire Michael Bowler. So thank you all for following the show, and we hope you enjoy this episode as well. So, you guys got anything to say before we get started?
No, but
Dan?
Nothing much.
All right. The reason we're having this show is because a mutual friend of ours who's 14 had mentioned about having a makeout session with her ex, and it just brought up the whole topic of what is appropriate at what ages for kids. How do you define different things? Like, would you guys consider a makeout session as being sexually active? David?
I would have to say it is a borderline. It is a sort of a gray area for me.
Okay, Daniel?
Not really.
Okay, you don't consider a makeout session to be a sexual activity?
Nope. Only as long as it doesn't go past that. So, honestly, a makeout session is just a makeout session. It would classify as something else if we actually keep on continuing.
Okay, David?
It is sort of like a sexploration.
I don't know. I consider a makeout session as kind of a precursor to actual sex, practically foreplay. Because when you're making out, it actually can lead into actual sexual activity.
It's highly possible, but very unlikely if the one or the other person is not ready for it.
Exactly.
Okay. Next question. At what age do you think it's okay to become sexually active? Daniel, start with you.
Okay. I would just say about around 14, but like most kids just nowadays and just most kids in general, you start dating around the age of 12, so you might get sexually active around the age of 13, but make sure you're well informed, and this is why parents and school teachers need to sit down and actually have a talk about the birds and the bees.
Okay, David?
What was the question one more time, please?
At what age do you think it's okay to become sexually active?
I would say the consensual age, 18.
Now, age of consent is different in every state.
Yep.
I would
Not
say
uniform.
at least I'd say 18.
Okay. I would definitely say it needs to be higher, because at anything less than, say, 17 or 18, they're just not, their brains aren't developed enough, and they're not emotionally mature enough to handle the consequences of having any kind of sexual activity. And it can very quickly and easily get away from them, and before they know it, somebody's knocked up. Okay. Okay. Forget sexual activity. What about physical contact, like kissing, holding hands, etc.? What age do you think that's acceptable, David?
I would say at least 12 or 13, because it's not really sexual. It's just you're just getting to know the person and getting into a situation where you can later on become sexually interactive with this person, but it's not exactly sex.
Okay, David? Daniel?
Well, the whole thing is and most people believe that if you have sexually conduct or just basically holding hands or just anything, feeling, like most middle schools, they tell kids do not hold hands, do not do hugs, do not hold on to people. They kind of do that in the middle school that's in my area, and then in the high school they kind of just let you do what you want, because by then you should actually technically know. So basically consent from where I live would be around the age of 13 or 14, but most kids start dating at the age of 12, so basically from 12 and up.
Well, just because they're doing it at that early age doesn't necessarily mean that it's right. They're doing it. They're starting so early, mostly because of peer pressure and what they're seeing in the various forms of entertainment. That doesn't make it mean that it's right for them to be doing it.
Not going to really get into that. Just answering the question as I thought it was, and so I'm letting it go into the next question.
Okay. What do you consider to be sexual activity? Daniel, start us off.
Sexual activity. Past the make-out section, honestly, because in the make-out section you actually can be really touchy-touchy with someone, but honestly, at the end of the day, it doesn't really mean anything as long as you don't go past the whole kissing zone.
Okay, what about like petting?
Petting, if you pet someone, that's kind of, usually they classify it as, if you pet their head, that's classified as a little normal.
Oh, come on, that's not what petting means.
Never mind, I'm not getting in this.
David?
I would consider that sexual foreplay. It does go into the situation where it can go in further and become sexual, but I would agree with you. I would agree that it's sexual.
Okay. Let's see, where am I at? At what age should kids be given the talk? David?
I would say as soon as puberty hits, around 12 or 13 years old.
Okay, Daniel?
Agreed.
Yeah, I think as soon as puberty hits, and maybe even just a little bit before it hits, because seeing as how it hits each child differently, they should be given the talk and explained. Okay, especially give them the talk before puberty, so they know ahead of time these changes to your body are going to be taking place. They may not happen right now, they might not happen all at once, but over the next several years, you will be experiencing these changes. So that way when it does happen to them, they're not surprised by it. I mean, boys, when their voice starts changing and they start growing hair under their arms and in their pubic region. For girls, when they start menstruating. That can be, especially for girls, that can be really traumatic when all of a sudden they wake up one night and their sheets and stuff are covered in blood.
That would be so devastating.
Yeah. What do you consider to be having sex, quote unquote? Daniel, starts off.
Actually, having sex is like, technically when you have sex, it's technically sex. So basically anything that is in the sex category in pornography, you could actually technically classify it as sex.
Okay. David?
I would consider sex further than just foreplay. It is penetration of either orifice or that's about it. Any orifice that it can be penetrated, it is. I would consider it just downright sex.
Okay, so oral sex, anal sex, vaginal sex. What about mutual masturbation?
Technically, that's not sex. That's not technically sex. That's just basically, for guys, that would be normal.
Well, even for girls, too.
Not exactly all. Yeah. No, not all exactly normal.
Well, in certain places in the world, it's different. So you could get a wide atmosphere of knowledge from different states, and you have different people that have different opinions on what their family does normally on a daily basis. As I had one friend that lived in California. He was younger. He was around the age of 14. It was kind of weird that all his, he had two brothers and his dad. They all lived in the same house, but they all masturbated at the same time in all different rooms.
Okay.
But it can be classified as manual sex. So would that not be considered having sex?
Not really. You're not really doing the same thing when you have sex. Sex actually feels different than actually just jacking off every day.
But it's two people, though. I'm talking mutual. If even if it's a boy and a girl, if he's fingering her and she's jacking him off, is that not sex?
Yes.
If you put it that way, yes. If it's just two guys jacking off right beside each other, that's normal. Same like two girls, if they're just going at it. They're not doing anything to each other. That's the whole thing.
No. What he's asking is if the male is fingering the female and the female is jacking
doing
the male,
each other.
Is that considered sex? I would say yes.
Most people would say yes because it has no really doubt there because technically you're doing something to another person. Because basically what sex is contact with another being or thing. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about when I say mutual masturbation. It doesn't mean you're doing it to each other. You're not just doing it next to each other. You're doing it to each other. Okay. So at what age should someone start dating? I'm not asking what they're doing now, but what is actually appropriate, not what is currently acceptable. I mean, because what's acceptable may not actually be appropriate. So, David.
I would say around 16.
Okay. Do you have any reason for that particular age?
Well, as long as the parents are with him at the time of the date, yeah, that would be fine. But if they want to do it, yeah, have it chaperoned at that age. But
for mostly, it's like age-wise, you really don't have a limit on what age is actually really appropriate because it's actually whenever the parents feel like it's okay for their kid to date, but at the same time, some parents are really holding back their kids on what they should be inactive with and what they should not be active with. And so I would say the appropriate age to start going on a date with someone or just dating in general would be about the age of 14 to 13. Around 12, you're going to start having crushes and going through motions, same like the age of 13. Around 13, 14, you might be dating someone. You might go on a date. You can technically go on a date anywhere in any place, so honestly, it can be very, very, where you're saying if they want to go on a date, like if you're saying just a proper date or a fancy date, then sure, then the age restriction would be up to the parents.
Okay. All right. Back to the reason that we got started on with this topic. Should 14-year-olds be having quote-unquote make-out sessions? Daniel.
Sure. It's honestly up to how mature your mind is and how well your knowledge about sex.
But then again, also, what you think at that particular age is being mature. You may think you're mature, but you really aren't.
Well, some people think, everyone thinks they're mature, and some people are not mature. You just, honestly, everyone thinks, is it classified normal in the world? And honestly, it's not. You kind of just have to take the fact that some people are just going to be out of that range, and some people are going to do things sooner than others. And that's all you just hope as a parent. You have to hope that you pray to God you actually taught them something before they got there.
Right, and everybody's going to mature at a different rate. So,
yeah.
David.
I would say that at that age, it would be somewhat. If it would be up to the parent. We cannot specify what our parent. We just have to go by what our parents taught us, or what they taught that child at that age.
Yeah, of course, the parents aren't always going to be around to monitor the kids either. I mean,
no.
They may sneak off under the bleachers or something.
Yeah, we actually had a thing happen at high school with that, where two kids, they were about 15 years old. They both got under the bleachers. They had sex, and actually real sex, to the point where he got her pregnant. They both got suspended for a whole year. Then he came back to school my sophomore year.
Been there, done that. Got the T-shirt. Okay. Next question here is where and how did you learn about sex? Was it from your parents, from school, friends, internet, TV, movies? How and where? David.
I did not exactly learn it from my mother and father. I actually learned it from another family member. So,
but it was still from a family member.
Yes.
Okay.
I was not really given the talk, but I learned from them.
Okay. Daniel?
Okay. Well, the whole thing is, some people give their parents, some people actually give their kids the birds and the bees. And as my mother asked me, as I told her, they never gave me a talk. And her response is, the doctor asked you so many questions about sex and everything, you should have known. And I'm just like, no, I had to learn on my own. So honestly, I'm just like, with just occasions of people talking to me in high school when I was like a freshman, then I started to experience looking at things and learning about sexual activity and stuff.
Okay, Donovan in the chat room says he learned from the internet, of course. Actually, he learned on IRC, which is the Internet Relay Chat. So, okay, should all the stuff that we've been talking about, age restrictions and activity restrictions and stuff, should the same restrictions apply to same-sex couples as they do to opposite-sex couples? Daniel.
Here's the whole thing. Technically, that would be a yes, because in our society, if you classified, we just take history lesson here. We kind of had the Native Americans, then we had the white people, then we have the black people, and then we have the Asians and all that crap. While all that was lovely happening, we always kept the same generalized information about how we should raise our kids, what they should be prone to, and what they should not get into. So basically, it's kind of like, yes, in some point we should be held to the same standards, but at the same time, it's all up to the point of the parents at the end of the day.
So David?
I would say yes. I would definitely agree with that.
Okay, Donovan, you got any input on that one? I know anybody listening can't hear him, but I can see him here in the chat room. So, personally, I don't think so, because a lot of the restrictions that we place on opposite sex couples are there to prevent the possibility of pregnancy, and that's something that we just don't have to worry about with same-sex couples. So
but we do have to worry about AIDS and HIV that we kind of need to teach our kids about, that some parents refuse to because they think it's a very uncomfortable subject for them and the kid.
Yeah, that's more of a health issue there.
Being pregnant technically is a health issue because you have to go to the hospital to have the baby most of the time. Because in some states, if you have it in your house, you technically can be arrested, and actually they call that child abuse.
Okay, I've never heard that one before, but anyways.
Read an article a couple of days ago.
Because when you're giving your kid the talk, explaining things at puberty, you should definitely explain to them about the various venereal diseases and sexually transmitted diseases. Explain to them and demonstrate on a cucumber or banana the proper way to use a condom.
Question mark of the day, but okay.
Why? Do you think you shouldn't teach them how to properly protect themselves?
Why do I not think they should, or why do I think that I should just say, honestly, at the end of the day, you're either going to learn it or not. Because some people don't understand it. It's like even with today's technology, people can read, but the point is, when it comes to a condom, some people don't read that damn thing.
Oh yeah, it's like most people don't realize the bloody things have expiration dates on them.
Yeah, they do, but most people can't read expiration dates on some things, like, you get candy bars or something. Shoot, that's a whole bunch of freaking damn numbers and letters. Who the hell is going to understand it? Oh, yeah, only people that actually do it on a daily average.
I'm sorry, I'm not laughing at you, Daniel. I'm laughing at what Donovan just said in the chat room. He says, don't you just blow them up and hang them from the ceiling?
Sure.
Actually, when I was like 13, 14, 15, around in there, we used to go down to the Greyhound bus station on the corner and get them out of the bathroom, out of the coin machine. They were like 25 cents each, and we'd use them as water balloons. Fill them up with water, tie them up, start throwing them at people. That's why it's so important. That's why I say it's important that kids are taught what a condom is and how it's used.
But kids are going to be kids at the end of the day.
That's enough. Because like I said, that's what we used them as water balloons because we did not know better. We did not know what they were for. We thought that's all they were balloons.
Really? And you didn't even read it or looked around and just see why? Or was it just a thing that basically said, insert for bloom?
They thought it was just 25 cents for a balloon. We were gullible back then. Hey, it was the late 70s. We were gullible.
Oh. All kids are gullible. Nowadays, kids are on the internet so much that the point is that you could put a false information and it could be so gullible to kids where it's like, oh, this is what's wrong with our world. No. Read the true facts, study up on it, then state your opinion.
Well, you got to also remember back in the mid to late 70s, most people weren't using condoms because that was before the AIDS epidemic.
Well, yeah, but the whole thing is with your generation, Dallas, and David's generation, you have so many adults in that generation this is what Social Security is all. They're afraid for you to retire because your funds that you've been paying in for years are not there because of a whole bunch of other shit. And because your parents it was less people back in your days when your parents were around, that in your generation was much more, as my mother says about my generation, that it was thinner out. Oh, yeah, in my sister generation right now, they have more kids than we had. Oh, that's understandable. It comes up and down.
Okay, young whippersnapper. Or, as Donovan said, like Ahmed, the dead terrorist with tampons and pads. Yes. We got about 4 minutes left to go, so but I think that may be what you were just talking about with Social Security and such. I think that may be a good topic for another episode.
Yeah, most likely. Like, everyone wants to know things.
Yeah, well, we don't have the money's not going to be there because Congress keeps stealing it for other stuff. It's called misappropriation of funds. That is not, Social Security is not their little piggy bank.
Okay, Dallas.
Yes. Okay. Another episode. As our pastor would say, that's another sermon.
Yes. And it's like,
back up, Dallas.
Health care. Yeah, next episode, Donovan. Or maybe not the next episode, but a future episode. We'll get into health care and Social Security and government stuff.
Well, if we do that, then we
can go on for hours.
Everyone could go in hours. It's just the whole thing is like we just have to make a certain amount of time for each question. Just add in some straight. Don't pawn around. Just make sure you have a straightforward answer because them sections really can last on for episodes and episodes and episodes.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Short to the point.
All right. We got about 2 minutes left. Each of you, I'm going to give you each 1 minute to summarize and say your final thoughts. So, David, go ahead.
No comment at the time. Daniel first.
Okay, Daniel, you got 1 minute. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, nice to know that we have a discussion about the talk and sexual activities, but apparently we didn't have no interviews for kids that actually were their age. Yes, my sister was going to join, but apparently she didn't feel like it, so I kind of understand. And then with other topics, it's like it's a lot more to go on, and on top of that, if I can actually start my own blog, then I can maybe just try to link characters and shows and try to do a mismatch. Nice idea. I know, I just thought of that. But, yeah. But I've been hanging up my clothes this whole episode and talking on the phone about this stuff. How lovely.
Okay. David, you got 1 minute. Go ahead.
All right. I would just definitely love to go further into this, but I know I can't. I have enjoyed the conversation, and I hope everybody and you two have learned a little bit about myself.
Okay. All right. This has been Wolf Bytes, and I'd just be glad I went with Bytes instead of Bits, because that could be a whole different spin on the show that way. Wolf Bits.
Let's not get into that. Thank you.
Yeah, wrong kind of show discussion there. But yeah, this has been Wolf Bytes, and we will have a show, or try to do a show every Friday evening at 10:30 Central Time. And of course, I'll have the chat room open at least 30 minutes prior to show start. So anybody wanting to come in and join in the discussion in the chat room is welcome to do so. If you want to call in, you can do that up to about 14 minutes prior to show start, and we can get you set up that way. So, and just to remind you, the call-in number is 347-945-7065, and we will see you again next Friday. So, for me, Lupine Furman, David Knight, and Daniel Ivey, we say good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, John Boy.